Life unfolds in chapters. Some chapters ask us to grow. Others invite us to slow down, reconsider what matters, or take an unexpected path. Today, I'm joined by Kathryn Basham, owner and curator of Brine Fine Art Gallery, the beautiful space where we are recording this pilot season of qui résonne, what resonates. Through her personal and professional journey, Kathryn has navigated significant transitions that have led her to reflect on identity, meaning, and the choices we make about how we live our lives. As both an entrepreneur and curator, she has also created space that invite reflection, creativity, and connection, values that resonate deeply with the conversations we are having throughout this series. Together, we'll explore transitions, uncertainty, the courage to change direction, and what it means to return to ourselves. Kathryn, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to be here. So I like to kick this off with every guest and ask you just what chapter of your life are you in right now?
I don't know. I thought a lot about this since we talked about it, and I'm beginning to think it's presumptuous of myself to name the chapter before I'm past it. Because we started going through things and I could think of previous chapters in my life and how I thought they were titled at the time. Moved to Canada, start my new life with my love of my life. Looking back, that's a totally different chapter name. And so I'm wary now to say, this is the chapter of because it sounds like a New Year's resolution. And I don't know that I can always live up to my New Year's resolutions.
Fair. So we will just to be determined, but how does this chapter feel, perhaps?
I'm hoping it is a chapter of unlearning things after a lifetime of being focused on learning what I need for next. I feel like this has been the past 2 years of unlearning a lot of bad habits, unlearning a lot of things that I took on as I grew up and as I went through my career, and unlearning some of those things that maybe got me stuck in places.
Okay, fair. I hear you. So what feels most present for you in this season?
What feels most present for me? I guess this is going to sound cheesy or corny, but I'm trying for the present to feel most present to me at the moment. I've always been a very anxious person, a very hyper-aware person that is not focused on now so much as what if, what's next. And that's always served me very well. When it's in a high pressure environment, when you're in the agency life, when you're in the kind of space where it's corporate and it's what can I do next, what's next, what can I take on? Trying to be more present now, and I don't mean that in a woo kind of way, because I'm not a daily affirmation kind of person of like this space. The closest I've come to this, and this is an old Ani DeFranco lyric where she talks about one of her songs, and she says, when I look around, I think this is good enough, and I try to laugh with what life brings, because when I look down, I miss all the good stuff, and when I look up, I trip over things. And it's not deep, it's not anything we haven't talked about or anything, but the idea of this trying to be a realist and that not being a bad thing by being present in the moment has been a big change for me lately.
Okay, well, we welcome that. What experiences, transitions, or challenges have shaped the person sitting across from me today? Let's go right into it.
Wow. This goes back to the idea of renaming chapters later in your life, because as I experienced things growing up, I did not have the language at the time to understand what was happening. You don't talk a lot about mental health in the South in the 90s. It wasn't something that I had the vocabulary to understand what was happening. Looking back now, I understand that there are 3 times in my life where I have burned out, where I've hit a hard wall, where I've had to stop what's happening. The first being my last year in high school, the second being in my 20s. And I now can look back at that and say, this is burnout. This is what happened. I pushed myself too hard. I couldn't keep up with it. This is what's going on. At the time, that translated to you're lazy, you can't keep up, you've failed, you can't do the right thing, so you've failed, you've fallen off track, you're not in the right space. I understand that differently now after my last round of burnout, when I was thankful to finally enter therapy and go start talking to people about it, understanding more that it's not that, I couldn't handle it. Well, actually it is. It's I couldn't handle it, but I shouldn't have been doing it in the first place. And I pushed myself too hard for it.
Looking back at, so this is off script, but looking back at that experience, right? So you didn't have words, you didn't know it was burnout.
No.
Right? Okay, but you were going through significant changes, or it manifested itself physically, mentally, spiritually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's huge. That's huge.
The idea, when I go back to the idea of unlearning, part of that now is, learning how to then react. It's like I've always been a very anxious person, and so when I was going through my last round of burnout a few years ago, I described it as always being at a 10, that I was constantly walking around, my cup is 100% full, and every time some little thing came up, it panic, breakdown, meltdown, because I could not get the water down. I couldn't get it down from 10. And I say now that, I feel like more I'm walking around at like a 7, learning to manage things. I don't know if I'll ever get below that just because I'm such a hyper-aware person with everything.
Right.
But with medication and with talking to people and understanding more about how my strengths have turned into some ways of working against me, being an ambitious person, having a high drive, doing this kind of go, 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 being highly responsible, those things made me very successful, but it also made me very prone to burnout.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've had that discussion many times. There's this little voice, right, inside that just goes
Next,
and goes.
next.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, I'm embracing this, yes, trying to go to 7, or being at 7.
At least.
So when you look back on the journey, right, as to who you are today, what chapters have impacted you the most?
It's interesting to think about it when we think about it again with chapters and when you're labeling them or how it's described. I think there's chapters in my life that defined me that I wish hadn't. Like I will never be the, I had to go through that so I'm stronger kind of person. Like I look back at things and think there are things I wish I hadn't gone through, but it had an impact on me. There's other things that had a great impact on me still. Like my work with the agency before this. I know there's a lot of conversation when we're talking now about burnout, and the focus is on the end of my career with the agency life and marketing. But it was an amazing period of time. Like when we talk about what built my current commitment to the community, what built my current idea of giving back more to the art space and giving back more to the community is 100% what I worked on and learned from the people of that agency, with working with people like David Hawkins, who said, you give until it hurts and you keep giving and you keep going. And that type of mentality of building a community first gallery that's focused more on the artist side of things, more so than, the promotional kind of big names or the sales side of it or the commercial side of it, was very much affected by the projects I worked on while at the agency.
So can you share a little bit more about how, the agency life and coming into contact, I guess, with the building a community around artists, is that where it fueled basically the idea for Bright and Brine?
Yes, 100%. So
Okay.
when I was coming out of burnout after leaving the agency, and trying to decide what was next, trying to look forward to, because you're always next, like what's the next steps?
Right.
Okay, I've taken my time, I've had my time to relax maybe, and then try and find myself again, or however you want to say that, to recentering yourself. A big part of it was coming back to pottery. And I've
Yes.
been working in ceramics since I was 14. It was my very first job, and I've been in some way involved with the arts and pottery my entire life.
Right.
So getting back into ceramics a few years ago was huge. It sounds cheesy again, but it's literally centering. Like the idea of getting back and working with your hands and working with
Yes.
clay and building something was huge, and I didn't want to give that up. I realized that what I loved about working with Brainworks was all the creative things that we got to do. I loved the strategy. I loved working on the campaigns. I loved that creative side of it and getting to see the impact that creativity can have on a community. At the same time, a friend was leaving the agency world as well and getting back into the arts, and he wanted me to represent him as a photographer. And so that was one of those things I was thinking, well, maybe, do we do something online? Is it something where I can try to combine these things? And it just came together. I always wanted a bookstore, and my husband said, in this economy, and I was shocked that he thought an art gallery would work as well. But I found, as I was doing my research and looking through Moncton and New Brunswick really at large, is there's not the space for artists. There's really not a lot. We do have some amazing galleries in Fredericton and St. John, but there's not a lot of opportunities here in Moncton for people to showcase their work. And there's a lot of barriers to that. There's a lot of barriers to entry for artists, a lot of them financial, where they can't get funding because they can't say that they're a professional artist because they haven't had a show, so they can't get funding for the show.
Yes.
And so a lot of that is what I've been trying to build into the gallery by calling it a community first gallery. So between group shows where I'm showing 30, 40 different artists at a time, or the accent program with Downtown Moncton.
Yes,
the idea
which is wonderful.
Thank you. The idea is to try and bring more art into unexpected places and give artists more opportunity to interact with the public, and the public more opportunities to find the artists.
I think that's brilliant. That's one of the things I love the most about this space, because as a writer and being also into this same kind of pathway where I am facing some of the challenges and needing to be published in order to be recognized as a professional writer. So those are real challenges, right? So anyways, I can just commend you for building that space, and it seems the artistic community has been responding overwhelmingly, right?
It's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it, and that part of it feeds a little bit of selfish side of me, but I love getting the response. There's nothing, it's like Christmas when I get to call and tell an artist that they sold something, or when I get to say you're part of the show, and we get to build those things together. With the Accent Window Mural Series, this is the third year. We started with 30 artists the first year. The second year we were able to do 40. This year with DMCI in the city, we had 62 artists that we were able to work with and show across the city, which is just incredible. Now that still came with over 200 applications, so it was a lot to go through and everything. But seeing those emails come back in, I even put a deck together to send to the city to show them this is the impact you're having, this is the artist and their response and what it means to them.
So would you like to talk about that partnership with Downtown? So DMCI. You said the acronym.
Downtown Moncton Centreville Inc.
Yes.
Yeah, so DMCI is the business improvement area for Downtown Moncton.
Right.
And I've been working with Patrick Richard there
Yes.
for the past 3 years, and since before I opened the gallery, to start bringing more art downtown. And specifically visual arts is what I'm focused on. So the idea of Accent is an umbrella visual arts program. So we have the Window Mural Series, and last year we launched Accent Mini, which is 5 tiny galleries in 5 locations around downtown. And this summer will be the next step with Accent Live, which will come with the Busker Fest.
Ooh, can you share more details about that?
It is a work in progress at the moment, but one of the goes along with the lines of bringing more opportunities for artists to interact with the public, and in this case, bringing some of those activation spaces to life where people can interact with the artists. It's another opportunity for artists to get paid for their work and their time, and to be able to showcase their skills.
Right. Oh, that's wonderful. Keep doing everything you're doing. Just amplifies the artistic community. So if we go back perhaps to, we'll transition back into, transition challenges that have shaped who you are. Was there a moment where you realized that something didn't fit?
I don't know if it was a moment as much as, of course, a group of moments, or there's always that, I guess, that last straw or the thing where it finally hits and you're like, oh yeah, that's what that is.
Yeah.
At the worst of my burnout, when I was still at the agency, I was having daily panic attacks.
Oh.
And it was something that at the time I really hadn't understood yet what that was. And again, in my head, it goes back to, you're not good enough, you're not keeping up, you're not doing the right thing, it's not happening. And so that took a long time with therapy to be talking to people and being like, oh, it's a panic attack. My body's not, I'm not mentally strong enough I can do this. It's just that I've pushed my body physically too much
Right.
that it's not responding the way it should.
Do you mind my asking, how did the panic attacks feel for you?
And that I couldn't breathe. It always started with the idea that I couldn't breathe. I'd be mid-conversation, or I'd be mid even email or meeting or whatever, and I would just need to get up and breathe. And it's funny now because I tell my friends and myself that all the time. Just breathe. Just breathe. Just remember to breathe. But I always felt like I was constricted, like I couldn't catch my breath enough to like move on. And then you have to, sit and think, oh my goodness, like, what is that? Am I crazy? Am I like, what's happening to me that this isn't normal?
It's almost like the, perimenopause, menopause feelings, something takes over you.
Yes.
I've had panic attack following a separation, and I remember the breath was definitely for me as well, but legs were feeling paralyzed. I would feel numbness.
Oh my
so
goodness.
Just couldn't move. So which amplified that panic feeling, right? I can't breathe, I can't move. So I'm stuck. I'm stuck in here, and I'm in an environment where I don't want to be having a panic attack right now. So that was really challenging as well to navigate that. So appreciate you sharing this, just so for the audience, if some people may not know that they are experiencing something that is like a panic attack. It's a real
100%.
thing.
And perimenopause, now like you said, that's another fun thing that you get to experience things and you think, is this anxiety? Is it perimenopause? Like, what kind of weird concoction is affecting me today? And go with it.
Yeah, so how are you navigating that combo?
I finally went on medication, and I talk about this a lot now because it was hard for me to talk about it originally, is I do take anxiety meds, and I was worried for a very long time about taking something and it dulling my shine or losing my sparkle or losing my drive. And it's kind of like getting back to pottery. It's allowed me to center myself enough that I am walking through life at a 7 instead of a 10, and trying to manage things that way. But with perimenopause with me, it's been a lot of extra factors. I always knew from a very young age that I didn't want kids. So when I was in my 20s back in Kentucky, I had my tubes tied up, and I had an ablation, and I had lots of stuff done that evidently I'm finding out now was not great practices that they don't do in Canada that they did in Kentucky, that is causing a lot more issues now of how my bits are working. I hate talking about guts and stuff like that. But I'm currently in the process, finally, of working through getting a hysterectomy and being able to try and move on from a lot of that craziness, because it is tied to it. And it's been something of those things that, like, growing up, my mother always said, like, she understood cramps, she understood a lot of the pain because she wanted kids. Like, she knew that she wanted kids, and she assumed that that was, like, the price she paid. And so growing up, I always thought, like, well, why am I paying this price? Like, I'm never going to have kids. Like, this is, like, not something that I'm going to want to ever go through.
Right.
And so finding out now that some of those decisions I made, which I would never change, I'm very thankful that I knew my mind and heart well enough in my 20s to say, kids are not for me.
Right.
But it is causing medical issues now.
Wow. Well, that's huge, Kathryn. So the hysterectomy, this is pending?
Pending, yes.
Pending.
I finally, after a year and a half, got my MRI just a couple days ago.
Oh, okay.
And I am hoping they'll come back and say, let's rip it up.
Sorry. Let's rip it up. I'm having visuals right now going through my mind.
You gotta laugh.
Well, you have to laugh,
You have
right?
to laugh.
That's what we've heard from a lot of guests so far. Laughter is the best medicine, and maybe we, stop taking ourselves so seriously and laugh more. So
Someday.
here's to laughing about this. But other than that, can I ask you how, perimenopause, is it preventing you from daily work, or you're functioning, you're navigating all of that? You're on it.
I would say it's become something I've learned to navigate again, but it's always full of surprises. So I never know now. Like, it's not a schedule. It's not something that I can plan on. I never know if the hot flashes are just the most insane thing for me, but it's also, it's also weird pains, or it's suddenly I'm exhausted for no reason, or my emotions are just like crazy cakes. And I have to go home sometimes with my husband, and I have to say, like, It's not you. Just
Yeah.
like
Yes.
step back. Like just give me the space to do whatever is happening here because it's not going to come out well if we have to talk about anything.
Yeah.
And thankfully he's been fantastic with it. And a lot of times he's more attuned to like my moods or my nonsense before I am,
Right.
and he'll be like, You want a little cookie? Like, are you okay? Like, do you need me to make you a sandwich? Like, I'm thankful to have a
Yes.
partner that understands
Yes.
what I'm going through. And it's not, I don't think it's impacted my life to a point where I can't function,
Right.
but it's definitely an irritant that, like you said, you know, it's thought flashes where you don't want people to think about it, or suddenly you're sweating through things, or suddenly,
Yes.
you know, you're literally in the middle of a conversation and you find yourself just like checking out. where
Yes,
you
that
can't
brain
focus.
fog.
Yes.
Yes.
For some reason, I suddenly I can't remember names, or I'll be talking with someone and I have that like, and I finally just started leaning into it and saying out loud like, oh, words are hard, and like I can't come up with it, and that's.
Well, that's a good tip, actually, you know, just to name it, right?
Yeah.
To put it out there. Yeah. Well, and speaking of husband, my husband will get a chuckle out of this, but I had said early on when, you know, I was starting to understand, oh, I am going through perimenopause. And he was thinking, she's going to kill me on a daily basis. But basically, kidding. But basically I said to him, you know, let's just name it. Let's just say when I'm not myself, maybe ask me the question, is this perimenopause speaking, you know? And it's gonna help both of us to understand, oh, okay, it's just my hormones being out of control. But at one point, it started to be just a little too much, right?
I can imagine at one point I started feeling facetious, like this idea
Exactly,
of like,
exactly.
perimenopause,
Exactly.
just being a brat, like it's.
We needed some adjustment
Yeah.
to this whole code, but I do think that naming and bringing our partners in so they understand, because it is a real thing. Like, yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun, but can't wait for it to be done. Rip it apart. Rip it apart. You can choose to answer this as you see fit, but is there anything that you had to leave behind in order to move forward?
Yes, and I think there's always, no matter the situation, you're making trades, whether it's personal or professional, or there's things that you have to balance, and whether it's, and I hate that expression, like I hate the whole idea of the work-life balance, or I'm finding balance in my life.
Does that
and
exist?
It sounds so cheesy, and I'm like just
Yes.
like something that you're not gonna ever obtain. But yes, I think you do have to trade things off, and I think you lose something no matter what you're gaining. One of the biggest things for me, moving out of the agency world and into a solopreneur within the gallery, is the people. Like it's, I miss my Brainworks family.
Of course.
Whether that's the people that worked with us, my clients. It's different being in your own space. What a weird thing to cry about.
No?
So I think it's one of the reasons I like bringing on artists so much. And I love when people stop in, even if they're not here to, you know, to shop or to look at the art, is stop in to talk. And more I enjoy having the artists that, you know, they're out and about, they'll pop in and we'll just be able to have that kind of creative conversation, because I do miss that. And as much as I say now that I built a beautiful office and I can still sit here and do consulting work, I miss that interaction. You know, it's not the same as sitting around a table with 5 or 6 other very talented, incredible creatives and having those energetic conversations. Now the trade-off of that is I'm working at my own pace. The trade-off of that is I can choose my clients, and I can choose the projects that I'm working on, and I can work at a more sustainable pace where I'm not trying to constantly hustle myself and others to go.
And meet a deadline. Yes, yes. No, I get that 100%. Well, you know, we've had these conversations in the past, and I totally get that piece about missing a team that becomes part of your family.
Yep.
I'm finding myself do exactly the same thing on this solopreneur journey, and surrounding myself with the same people that I worked past and that felt like family. I miss them dearly, right? So I get it, yeah. So many people experience seasons, right, where they don't yet know what comes next. How have you navigated uncertainty?
Uncertainty, I hate uncertainty. I have friends that always joke that my love languages are direct feedback and clear next steps. Like that's, I want like, I always want to know the schedule. I want to know what's going on. And so uncertainty is very difficult for me to deal with, and I try very hard to embrace it. But I fail. I always want to have that plan. And that was the hardest thing, I think, with going through the burnout, is as I was going through it and as I was panicking and realizing that I had to make the change, that I couldn't sustain what I was doing, is the uncertainty side of it was, what now? Like that whole idea of focusing on the future wasn't letting me, it always sounds so corny, wasn't letting me heal. Like I wasn't resting because I was so focused on what I should be doing next. I was so concerned about the uncertainty of, I have to make money and I have to have a job and I have to be doing this and I can't keep sitting on the couch and why am I spending so much time in therapy and talking to people? I should be doing something next. And it's advice I now give to anyone I talk to going through burnout, is this idea of let yourself sit with that uncertainty, because it's the hardest part, but you can't get over what you're going through while you're trying to build the next thing. Like it will just, there's no foundation to that. It'll just fall apart.
You need to hold space for what needs to emerge, basically. So, and you gave me that advice 3 years ago, and I was deeply appreciative of that advice back then. And I had tried, and I wasn't ready. Right? So it took me 3 more years to get back to that point. But happy to report, I've done the sitting with the uncertainty. And
it's awful.
Yeah, it feels messy, right? Feels messy at first, but see, this is me crying now. But there is so much healing that comes from it.
Yes.
Right? And there is one quote you shared with me recently, and I'd like to unpack, which is how, do you remember? It was how we are the harshest judges. Like, we've put ourselves on trial.
Yes.
Basically, we put ourselves on trial over and over again.
Yes, this idea of holding on to memories for a trial that's never coming. Like you're holding on to things that you think I think that I need to keep inside of me, that I need to hold on to so that I understand that they happen, so that this fictional time is going to come where either I get judged for it or others get judged for it, and I'm holding on to that testimony of sorts. But it's never coming. Like I'm holding on to it for nothing. Like there's the people that are involved or the individuals that it's part of may not even be thinking anything about it. It could have, it's not even in their heads, and I'm clutching onto this like it's something that I need to hold on to and be able to speak against when that's not coming.
Yeah. Do you feel it has to do with self-forgiveness?
Oh, 100%. We're always so hard. I mean, we're always our worst critics. I mean, I am. It's very hard to forgive yourself for things. I mean, you get stuck in those loops, or I do, as far as, that your value is your productivity. And if you're not being productive, then you don't have value. And how do you forgive yourself for that? I'm going to take 3 hours and read a book. Well, what are you doing? Well, I'm going to read my book for 3 hours. And understanding that that's okay and it's not something you have to forgive yourself for is huge.
Yeah. Where do you feel this is coming from? Because I have that same voice, if you will, same belief of, you always need to be productive. So I also had a hard time just sitting still. I still do for the most part. I have my opinions as to where I think it comes from, but I'd like to hear yours.
It's hard talking about stuff like this because I don't like the default to blame something.
Right.
And it's difficult for me when we start talking about things like this of where did I get this or where did I internalize this, of shifting it to a blame. It's one of those things. It is what it is. Like it's everything you grew up with, whether it's from your parents, your family, or the school system, or just the community that I was in, or the culture I was in the South. At that time is what I internalized and what happened. I was straight A student. I was president of the student council. It's all those groups that you join and you think as you're growing up that it's on my permanent record. Like I have to do it right. It's on the permanent record. And you keep going next. And if you're not studying, if you're not working towards something, then you're being lazy. You're wasting your time. You're not doing something. And it's one of the reasons I think I still love to read today, because that was an accepted thing in my household. Like if you're reading, you're studying. If you're reading, it's literature or something like that. So it was one to kind of hang on to. But, even in recent years, it's difficult. Sometimes you go home to visit family and you think, if you get those weird spots of like you're sitting on the couch and you're constantly like, should I be folding laundry? Like, should I go do the dishes?
Yeah.
Like, if I don't have a job, they're going to give me one. Like, and then
oh, listen, I get it. Even in my volunteer work, I just can't sit still. I still have like, oh, maybe I should go and move chairs on stage, which is exactly what I did when I was in Ottawa. Like, it's crazy. But yeah, this deep-seated belief, to me, it was all about not feeling worthy of love unless I achieved something.
Yeah, you have to earn it.
You have to earn it. So this whole concept for me of a community that's showing up while I'm still not achieving something, right? It's been hard, but embracing it.
But people are showing up for you.
Yes.
I mean, that's the amazing thing. Like it's
exactly. Yes. Yeah. So yay for the people who show up for us just for being, right, and not for achieving. Is there anything you are carrying that no one can see?
I think we all carry things that no one can see, and that's standard. I think it's part of what you learn when you start going through therapy and talking to people more, is you get more of that awareness that it's, it's not skin deep, or it's not, what people put on their face and what they can mask, and it's, you have to go through life understanding that. It's what I always believe. Everybody should go through and be retail or food service, because it's the best way to understand, like, when you're interacting with people, when they're having a shitty day or something's going on in their life, that you can, how you interact with that. With me, like, it's everything from the hysterectomy that we talked about to what actually triggered a lot of the panic attacks and anxiety within the agency, or what happened when we talk about originally coming to Canada and I, thought it was the love of my life. I think there's always things that we think like that doesn't need to be shared, or no one needs to hear it, or like we all have our sad sob stories, or things always go wrong or whatever. And I don't know that I always want to revisit it. It's one of those things we talk about keeping it to put on trial later. Like I'd rather let it go. I'd rather be able to move on and talk about new stuff than talk about some of the shitty stuff, or the stuff that we're hiding, or the stuff that we're carrying that we don't want to anymore. It was one of the hardest things with therapy for me, is it doesn't, just talking about it doesn't help. Like for me, just this conversation of me saying it over and over again. I had several therapists that would be like, you're not crying, or you're not, like, why is it doesn't affect you? And I'd be like, well, because I have now described it 30 times. Like I've gone through
it's not like a record.
It's no longer just talking about it. It's not something that's helpful. Like what are the actual tools or pieces to that?
Yes.
But yeah, I guess it's a way of saying I'm not confessing any secrets here of what I'm carrying or holding on to, but it's, everybody has something.
Yeah. This is the part, like, I guess I'm not surprised, yet I am, and maybe it's just because of this season of my life where maybe I'm tapping into the vulnerability, the authenticity, letting the light shine, all of that jazz. But I'm still astounded by how people feel about themselves and the parts that they conceal, that they keep within. It's and it's their business, and I also respect, like I do believe that trust is earned, right? And just basically you never know what's going on in someone's whole life, and we just have to remember that, and what is shared. If you are privy to receiving this even small part, you're privileged, right? And that trust is earned. So I don't know, it's kind of how I don't think I had a question in there. I was just having a comment and a conversation here, but yeah.
Well, it all goes back to this idea of like, and again, when I was younger and I didn't have the language for it, but this idea of masking, this idea that you put on a mask, or that you learn to do things. I was not, shocking, I'm still not a very like touchy-feely, like emotional person, like all that stuff. But it took me a long time when I was younger because I didn't understand the facial expressions.
Right.
And so literally it was okay, this facial expression goes with this emotion. Like this is how I need to understand. And working in things like food service and things like that really helped because I was able to gauge that reaction back from people.
Right.
But when we go back to this idea of unlearning now, is I still find myself going straight back into, this is the correct face, this is the correct smile for this emotion, or this is how I need to react. And idea of unpacking kind of why we put that on versus being just allowed to have a blank face and understanding.
Right, right. Or just even, I'll get back to you,
Yeah.
right? That is something I felt always the need to respond to someone right away, but now, let me unpack this, let me process it, I'll get back to you. That's also acceptable. Moving on to talking about identity and authenticity, how do you feel that identity evolves over time?
I think things change so much and we don't realize that when we're younger. I've got a friend who's 20, we got a 20-year-old daughter now that we spend more time with, and she's a hoot. And we're learning a lot from her as we go through things. But what I keep telling her is you don't have to decide anything right now. Like you don't have to make any decisions about who you are in your life right now. She's going through that phase where she's in college and she's having to pick a major and she's having to pick all these things that at the time I remember going through and thinking, I am defining my life.
Yeah.
You went to college. I went to college originally for architecture.
Really?
And I thought that is it. That is my creative space that will allow me to do something that's still in the box of math or engineering that counts as a real job.
Okay.
I got through a year and a half before my brain went, oh no. And I switched majors. But I keep trying to give her that advice and others that you have so much time. Like there's no reason to decide those things. And I look back about all the anxiety I had when I was younger about, I'm going to find my soulmate in high school, or I'm going to find this person that I'm going to marry in college. And I look back and think, if I'd connected with someone there and I was still with them, I'm a totally different person. How in the world, 25 years later, would I still be able to connect with someone or in that kind of same space as the person I am now versus then? Hell, 8 years ago, a different person I was. Like it's always changing.
Constantly evolving, right? Shaped by also what we're exposed to, what we go
100%.
through. Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons I do have a problem with the idea of coming back to self, because I think self is such a range. Self is such a constantly moving thing that I don't know if it's coming back to yourself so much as finding where you are on the timeline then.
Well said. Well said. I'm going to steal that. Are there parts of yourself that you've rediscovered along the way?
Sure. I think that getting back into pottery was a big part of that. Like I said, it was always part of my life, whether it was ceramics or art in general or some ways of connecting with my creative side. It's always been a huge space. And when I look back at those other times when I had burnout, I can see now that it's when I left a creative space and pushed more towards whether it's academic or things that are outside of the creative space. So as an example, when I was in my 20s, I worked with bookstores in the States. And so originally it was with local independents. I loved it. I'm obsessed with books, but I got to do a lot of great things, whether it was working with artist signings or merchandising or selling people books. I love just the interactions of saying, what are you reading? Oh, I got a great book for you. Like that was fantastic. But because I'm me, you can't stay a bookseller. That's not a job. You can't just be a bookseller. And so you go through, I'm a supervisor and I'm a manager. And then, Borders came and bought us. And so now I get Borders management training. And then, now it must be time to be a district manager and a regional manager. And suddenly you're in a space where you think, I haven't touched a book, let alone talked to someone in 2 years. And it's totally out of the creative space. You're in a space where it's all emails and spreadsheets and P&Ls. And it's not where you want to be. Same thing with the agency life. I love the creativity. It's amazing the things that we got to do and accomplish and work together to build. But the more you go into that, further into the, I won't say the corporate side, but the business side of it.
The client management
side of it. I spent far more time on emails and spreadsheets than I ever did creating something. And so being able to come back into ceramics and re-engaging with that creative side of myself, finding that creative side again and saying like, this is this is what I have to focus on. My dad made me cry the other night because I was talking on the phone with him and I was describing a new client that I'd taken on, and I was doing some projects with him that wasn't necessarily marketing, that I was doing some more operational work and some more HR work. Yeah. And my father, who I never expected to come from, said, just be careful that this doesn't lead down the same road as last time, that you're getting into things you don't want to be doing. And I thought, holy shit. Thanks, Dad.
How did that feel?
It made me cry. Like I was not that he's not a intuitive person, but it was just surprised me, I guess, that he made that connection as well.
Right. Well, go Dad, go. He caught on. Daughter maybe happier when she's in creative side, but I get it. To me, it was the writing. Yeah, reconnecting to writing definitely keeps me grounded in that creativity, and I do need it, and I know when it's missing from my life, or any type of other creativity, right? I like to dabble. I'm not at all a potter like you are, but like to dabble, DIY and do stuff like that, and it's a happy space for me. Yeah, and it fills my cup. And I find that when that cup's not filled, this is when I go into those belief systems that have shaped my life, right? Not good enough, you're not, you should be achieving, you should be doing this.
It's funny that you say fill your cup, because like I said earlier, I think of it the other way around. Like I think of it when my cup is to the top, I'm maxed out and I can't handle anything without stuff spilling out. Yeah. And the idea of being creative allows me to manage that amount in the cup, but I want it to be lower. Well,
I think it works in both sense, right? Or maybe another way that my therapist had shared this winter was like, just go back in your garden, take care of your garden. When you're into your garden and you're weeding out and you're planting it's a happy place, right? And you're not looking at the other garden, right? So I don't know.
I don't garden. My husband takes care of all the gardening. I can't keep anything alive. Thank God he keeps me and the dog alive and the plants alive. That's
okay. So don't get you a plant as a gift.
No.
Yeah. Okay. No. Good to know. Okay. Let's ask this question. What does a life that feels aligned look like?
I don't know. Will you tell me? I have no idea. Does someone have that answer? Have you asked anyone that has had the actual answer to that question?
No. No. I think, to your point, this whole work-life balance that we were sold at one point.
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't. I think it's just you navigate whatever life it puts in front of you, and
we're gonna have ups and downs, and like my husband jokes, he has the worst luck in history, and we have to laugh about it, and that's times that we say, look, well, we're there, like we joke, like we're here, like let's just enjoy that we're together, that this is happening. And I don't mean to make light of the question, I don't know that there's an answer for that, of what alignment looks like. It's always gonna shift. I can say what would align my afternoon, but I think past that is, again, getting a little difficult to say what actually that should be. Right. I'm worried now that, because I've always been the push, next, that I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, that I want to be able to kind of plan as it goes for once and see, like, when I need to pivot now, let's make some quicker pivots versus saying, this is the goal, this is what it looks like, this is what finished looks like, because there's no finish, there's no stop, it just keeps, thankfully, it keeps going.
Right. No, it's very fair. I like it. I'll go with it.
Okay.
What would you do differently today that you did 10 years ago?
10 years specifically?
No, you can use 10. You can go further. You take it where you want. What would past Kathryn do differently, basically? Then,
This is where my questions are going to come in. I don't know. Again, I know I keep saying that a lot, but when you talk about what would you do differently, there's a lot of caveats to that. What would I do differently given the information that I know now? What would I do differently just having different responses because I was in a different place? What are things that I would change maybe that are just simple decisions that would have had giant impacts that I would have no way of knowing at the time what that shift would be? Right. Like I said previously, I'm never going to be the person that says, look, I had to go through the hard times to get where I am now. If we wanted to roll it back, I would honestly say, and I know this is not a popular opinion, I would say I wouldn't move to Moncton. I would never have come to Moncton. I would not have gone through everything I went through before establishing a wonderful life here as I did.
Right.
That first 5 years was awful. And I would not wish going through anything like that again with other people. Having said that, though, if I had decided not to come to Moncton, I wouldn't have the amazing life I have now.
Right.
And so it's hard to balance those two things of saying, was it worth that to make a change just to get where you are now?
Right. Well, I think it goes back a little bit to what you've said earlier, right? It's life, it just is. It just is. You navigate. Sometimes life throws heck of curveballs at you. Sometimes they hurt quite a lot, but you navigate, and it shapes who you are today, right? So it's kind of like embracing. To me, that's the season of life I'm in. It's embracing all of that together. It's like, hey, it's who I am at 50 today, right? So I don't know if that works. So we're at the last part already, and we'll just talk about like what resonates with you. What do you hope resonates with listeners?
I hope what resonates with listeners, or even if it doesn't resonate for them now, that they can think on it and it becomes something that resonates with them, is back to the idea of your value is not on your productivity. And this idea that we really can make space for doing things that we want to do to enjoy them, whether it's reading or pottery for the sake of pottery, not because you have to sell it, because you want to make something, whether it's being able to take a walk just because you want to take a walk, not because it's a health requirement that you got to get your steps in. I think there's a lot of that I'm still unlearning, like we talked about, and I hope people will go easy enough on themselves to understand that it's not that serious. Like like I said, just breathe. Like this idea of just let yourself breathe. I'm not one for like, what do you call, like manifestations, or like, what do you say, like things like that, where you don't have like happy sayings or something. I do find that I'm sometimes more negative or realistic with things. And an old phrase that I hear sneaking back into my head right now is my life. Like whenever something goes wrong, or even it's a tiny little inconvenience, you drop your coffee and you're like, my life. Or like, something goes wrong and you're like, my life, like this is my life. And in my head, it's a negative thing. And so I've started trying to make myself stop and say out loud when my head goes, my life, I try and go, is good. There is nothing wrong right now. No one is mad at me. I've done nothing wrong. It's a good space. Like, and it feels stupid to say to myself, but I have to remind myself sometimes that, it is my life. You know what? And I can't just go my life and think that's a horrible thing, because I understand that I am in a privileged space and that I have a wonderful life and community right now, and I just have to get out of my way with it.
Right. Well, we do have to counter those inner voices, so I love it. I have inner dialogues all the time, so we can unpack that at a different time. What would you say to someone who feels they are currently between chapters in their own life?
Stay there.
Okay.
Who knows? Maybe you're between chapters, maybe you're not. Maybe you're at the end of a paragraph. When you talk about chapters in a life, it almost is like you look at it as each of those little spaces, but it's almost more like it's like the table of contents for like a human resources book, or like a handbook or manual, where you're like, okay, well, this is chapter 2, but it's chapter 2.c, and half of the chapters, if it's like chapter G49 or whatever, it says CF27. Like there's not a clear chapter layout. So you may feel you're between spaces, but
I love it.
That's might be where you are, and you have to address back to a previous chapter, reference something else to see what the clarity is or what's next.
Right. Okay, I'm loving it. What's resonating most strongly with you right now?
It's the 100 million questions or things in my head, like you just talked about, when you've got this entire other conversation going on. So I don't know that there's a single thing that I could point to and say, this is a defining thing that's resonating with me. Kind of like the beginning when you said, what's the chapter called? And I was like, I don't know yet. We'll figure it out when it's the end of the chapter. Maybe we'll have a name for it. I don't know. Is it artistic community? Is it, I don't know, maybe that's the answer there, because it's the first thing I said, artistic community.
Yeah. It's whatever comes up, right?
There you go.
Yeah. Last question before we close. is there anything we haven't talked about that feels important to name before we close?
One thing we've talked about before, and especially when we talk about resonance and everything, I guess, is this idea, especially when we went through COVID, that everything had to be resilient, and the idea of resiliency, and that was such a core value of everyone, to be resilient and to be able to stick something through and to fight through it and to stay through it. And you hear that all the time in marriage and everything. You just got to put the work in. You just got to keep going to make it happen. Something that said to me that was just blew my mind away is this idea is, are you resilient, or are you just too stubborn to step out of the storm? Like, are you just too stubborn to like stop what's not working? Right. And that's such a big thing that I think about now looking back, that I get so grumpy now with the idea of resiliency, because I think, had I not just kept going, would I have been aware enough about what was happening in multiple times of my life to understand it wasn't a matter of plowing forward. Like, I wasn't going to get anywhere by keep going forward. And had I just taken a step to the side out of the storm or the wind or whatever it was, the path would have been easier.
Right. Well, I really like this closing of the idea that resiliency is not pushing through, right? Resiliency to me is just what is. What is the fact that we are standing here today, in your beautiful space, what you've created for this community, what you have offered me as a new entrepreneur. I just value immensely your friendship, your wisdom, what you have created for others. So I'll stick with that, And I also think that we just need to redefine this whole relationship with resiliency and whatnot. Don't push through people. Kathryn Basham, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. This was fantastic.